tried to shoot the president. However, both pistols misfired. Lawrence was later found not guilty by reason of insanity. After his release, and he was released, he bragged that powerful people in Europe had put him up to the task and protected him, and promised to protect him if he got caught. Following year, the bank's charter ran out. Second Bank of the U.S. ceased to function. Biddle later was arrested and charged with fraud. He was tried and acquitted and died shortly thereafter, while still tied up in civil suits. It took the money changers 77 more years before it could undo the damage Jackson caused them. When asked what his most important accomplishment has been, he quoted, "He killed the banks." Next, Abraham Lincoln, greenbacks, bankers, and the continuing play of assassination. You're listening to Turtle Island News with Tracy Kennedy, and I'll be right back.
Was passion. That's all over, child. Last night you made that heart connection. Now you just can't stop thinking of your lover. Baby, ain't that right? Girl, ain't that right? Took you a minute to be grooved, losing control, that was something new. Now you're sitting around wondering what in the world you're gonna do. But lady, you meant it, didn't you? Oh, little lady, you know you meant it, child, didn't you? Well, I meant it to. I meant it to. I meant it to. I meant it to. Well, I rolled out of bed this morning, slept good last night. Looked out my window, let the sun was shining bright. Don't get set to worrying, trouble in my mind. Lord,
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to the last segment. And thank you, everybody, for listening today. I really appreciate it, guys. And Flagship Radio and TCT, how you doing? Scottish Sovereigns on the Land. Organic Sulfur for Health. Thank you for joining today. Dolly's computer printer is haunted. Just saying. I know it's it's making noise all by itself. Isn't that creepy? I hate it when machines just make noise for no reason, especially when they should be off. But if you go over to one of the articles I have today on the, I don't know, on weird machines turning themselves off and then exploding, unplug it just in case. Okay, now let's move on. We have in walks very tall, very lanky Abraham Lincoln. Unfortunately, though, fractional reserve banking remained in use by numerous charter banks even after Jackson died. So he actually did only kill Indians. This fueled a whole economic instability in all the years leading up to the Civil War in the United States. Still, central bankers were out, and as a result, America was thriving as it began its westward advance of stealing and rape and pillaging. So, whether or not they had a bank, they had become what the English bank was. They had turned into England. They may not have known it, but they were working for them the whole time. Central bankers, of course, didn't say much at the time. They were struggling, but not completely, because they were still paying for who they wanted in charge, as they always did. One month after Abraham Lincoln was inaugurated, the first shots of Civil War was fired at Fort Sumter, South Carolina, April 12, 1861. Slavery was not the cause of the Civil War. That was a complete fraud. The economy of America was dependent on slavery. Lincoln was incredibly prejudiced, hated black people, didn't want them sent off the country, wanted them killed, and wanted Haiti torched, and thought if we could go all the way to Africa and do the same thing, it would be better for the planet. So that's how he rolled. This was also not a good man. He was not a hero. Had nothing to do with slavery, hated black people. That's how we rolled. So, putting all of the fantasy aside about this man, within months of the first shots, central bankers loaned the nephew of Napoleon III of France, 210 million francs to seize Mexico, stationed troops along the southern border of the U.S., taking advantage of the United States war, to violate the Monroe Doctrine, return Mexico to colonial rule. It had nothing to do with fighting for the Mexicans, had nothing to do with this becoming one island again. It was about the fact that South America at that point were trying to gain some freedom, but they wanted them back in the colonies. That's why the money went out. That's why they founded Napoleon, because the name was familiar. So, no matter what the outcome of Civil War, United States would be weakened, incredibly indebted to central and international bankers, which would open up Central South America to colonization, to domination, in a way that the Portuguese had not been able to complete. This was the very thing the Monroe Doctrine had forbidden 1823. And to find that gold that the Incas had hidden in the mountains. This we have to talk about later too, because during all of the rape and pillaging that was going on in South America, there was time between the crossings. And during that time, all of the Incan gold, because when they came to get these people, they were gone. The cities were emptied. They had taken all the golds out, and gold had been used in even furniture at the time in some of their cities. It disappeared. They did not go off planet. They actually put a sign on several of the trees that people are still calling hieroglyphics and saying it was the aliens that came down. No, they went to their mountains, took the gold, and escaped. So, During this same time, Britain moved 17,000 troops into Canada, positioned them on the U.S. northern border with, I have to admit, the Mohawk people who were at that point mercenaries. Yes, they were. The British fleet went on a war alert, stood there waiting, of course, like they had done at the other two insurgencies, just waiting to be called. Lincoln was in a dumb and blind, agonizing over the fate of the Union, maybe. There's a lot more to war here, of course. A lot more than differences between North and South. His emphasis seemed to be on the Union, but was not just about the defeat of the South. There was a lot going on here. He needed money to win, of course, and in 1861, Lincoln and his secretary, treasurer, Solomon P. Chase, went to New York and applied for what? Loans. Money changers. Anxious to see the Union fail, offered loans at a 36% interest. Lincoln refused to accept the rates, returned to Washington. He went to another financier, and, one of his friends, a tailor, who was a general at the time, told Lincoln to get Congress to pass a bill authorizing the printing of full legal tender notes. Pay your soldiers with them. Go ahead and win your war with them also. Lincoln asked if the people of the United States would accept the notes. Taylor said the people, well, anyone else will not have a choice in the matter. You just make them full legal tender. This is why the full sanction of the government is. It's good as money, as Congress had given that express right to the Constitution, by the Constitution. So, Lincoln printed around $400 million worth of new bills. In order to distinguish them from other banknotes in circulation, he printed them on green ink on the backside. Thus, the notes became known as the greenbacks. With this new money, Lincoln paid the troops, bought their supplies. During the course of the war, nearly $450 million in greenbacks were printed, at no interest to anyone. Lincoln understood who was really pulling the strings. Of course, he was not a stupid man, and seemed, for the most part, honorable. Even when he was a lawyer, he defended someone who was fighting against the Vatican and the Jesuits, saying that they were a part of still the Vatican-run money system, and he did it for free. So, a lot going on for this guy too. He may have not been perfect, of course, but he was definitely interesting. So later, he received extra help from someone completely a surprise. Tsar Alexander II of Russia. The Tsar, like Bismarck in Germany, knew what international money changers were up to, and steadfastly refused to allow them to set up a central bank in Russia. If America survived, which looked very, very sketchy at this point, and was to remain out of the clutches of the banker, the Tsar's position would remain secure. The bankers were successful in dividing America and giving pieces back to Britain and France, because all this crap was going on too, right? Both nations back to control the central banks. Eventually, they would threaten Russians again, so the Tsar gave orders that if either Britain